Okay, I'm going to show you how I stitch the fringe hair onto a finished doll. I made a earlier video showing how to make the fringe in the first place. If you would like to go over that part, I'll put a link to that video below. Anyway, I have my doll already made, and I have my fringe already made. And I'm going to start out by pinning it into place so I know about where to stitch it. If you want to know in advance how much hair to make, that's kind of tricky. I usually just sort of estimate, and then if I need more later, I can make more, and if I don't need quite as much as I made, I can trim it once I've got my hair stitched into place. So I take the chained seam and I lay it into place with the hair facing out towards the face, where the face is going to be. And then once I've stitched it into place, I flip it back over. I find that this hides the seam the best. So I'm just going to take straight pins and pin it more or less where I want it. Just make sure to get all of your pins back out as you stitch, otherwise you may have a nasty surprise waiting for anybody who wants to play with your toy. Now usually what I do is I make 2 rows relatively close together. That makes sure I have a thick hairline so there aren't gaps sticking out in between. And usually I'll just fill in the hairline really well and then pull the hair back and tie it like into a ponytail or pigtails or something like that. And that way I cover up the bald spot that's in the middle. If you want to do a hairstyle where that doesn't really work, you're going to need to make a lot more fringe. And usually I'll outline the hairline in the same way. Just go twice around, stitch it into place, and then zigzag in the area that I want to fill in. And that will make really full hair. So a lot of times what I'll do is then I'll go back and trim up the hair, basically give them a haircut to shape the hairstyle in whatever shape that I want. But for this example, I'm just going around twice, and I've got it pinned into place. I'm going to get a needle and thread and just start tacking. And you don't have to be terribly even with your stitches, you just want to make sure that you catch the yarn as well as you can, because the fringe, the way it's made, doesn't lock your yarn into place. It can slide around a little bit. So in order to make a toy that will hold together relatively well, you want to tack the yarn into place so it won't slide. So I'm just catching the toy and the edge of the fringe and just stitching all the way around. I'm going to pull these pins out since I don't need them anymore. And I'm going to pause for a minute while I stitch the rest of the way around. Okay, I've stitched my first pass into place and pulled all of the straight pins out. Now I'm going to go around for my second pass, just placing the fringe close to the edge of the first pass. And again, I'll just pin it into place, and then go around and stitch it into place. And I'll pause and come back once I've done that. Okay, I've got my second pass stitched down, and since I'm just going to pull the hair back into a ponytail, I don't really need to fill this section in because it's going to be covered as I pull the hair back. If I was going to do a different hairstyle, like if I wanted the hair to have a part down the middle, I would probably edge this part, and then pull the fringe back to cover where the hairline is. Usually, whatever sections are going to be exposed, I'll edge those, and then pull the hair to cover any parts that are a little bit sparse. So, for this one, I'm just going to pull the hair in the opposite direction from the seam. Sort of arrange it so it's going all more or less the same direction. And then I'm going to take a piece of matching yarn and tie it around all of the hair. I want it to be pretty tight so this yarn doesn't come loose. So I'll knot it after I've pulled it tight. Let me get some scissors. Alright, I'll cut this part and stitch my yarn ends in. And I'll just stitch it into the back of the head. And keep that yarn end from coming loose later. And at this point I can just sort of mess with it to even out the hair. Or if I wanted to, I could trim the ends if I wanted it to be all yarn ends instead of loops. I'll probably trim these longer bits so they're even. Maybe pull on it a little bit to loosen the hair up. Maybe pull a couple of pieces loose so they'll just hang down. But anyway, you can play with it and shape it into whatever you want, but that's the general idea of how I put the hair together.